Welcome to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay.
And welcome to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay. My name is host Mike Jokum. Jess and Matt are joining me with our first off-season episode. We're here to recap everything Laguna, answer a couple fan questions and silly season stuff. Let's dive right into it. This week again brought to you by gripmat.com, the world's first flexible non-slip tool mat. Go to their website and use promo code PLP10 for 10% off. So, Laguna Seca, what a weekend. Top 5 recap from the race itself was Colton Herta, Will Power, Scott Dixon, Simon Pagenaud, and Felix Rosenqvist rounding out the top 5. But obviously the story of the weekend is Josef Newgarden, now a 2-time champion, edging out teammate Simon Pagenaud by 25, Rossi by 33, and Scott Dixon by 63. So, looking back, I guess maybe the second half of the season, let's say, is there any sort of moment you guys look back on that kind of is a championship defining moment, or a moment where you went, this is Josef's year?
Honestly, no. I think that he made several mistakes, and he even said that he made several mistakes that probably could have cost him the championship. Obviously it didn't, but there's nothing that sticks out to me as being like the moment that I thought he was going to win it. But I think he was just consistent over the whole year, and that ended up being what paid off for him.
Yeah, he was pretty much good everywhere. I think the one that kind of stood out to me maybe was Iowa, where he just dominated everybody, and especially Rossi, who, Mike and I asked him, Rossi's not really on his game, and Mike Knapp as well. Rossi's not really on his game this weekend. Is this a good time to pounce? And basically said, every weekend's a good time to pounce, so we just got to, be good everywhere. But he did such a good job at Iowa. And then, I don't want to steal Mike's answer maybe, but not crashing at Gateway too in that final corner. I mean, just getting across the line and not, putting in the wall and having 4 to 5 other cars pass him, I think was also, even though he did make the mistake, I think did help him out a lot as well.
Yeah. Thank you for stealing my answer. Like you predicted, that's quite okay. Yeah, I don't think there's one specific moment, but I think if you look at it over a season, how many top 5 starts he had, especially the second half of the year. If you start at, let's just say, Road America, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, all but one race did Newgarden start in the top 5, which just sets you up for success no matter what. So even if you're not winning, points are the name of the game at that point in the season, and he definitely did well there. So obviously, as fans, was there a moment maybe for you guys that you think either any of the other championship contenders would have wanted to have back this year, or maybe at least the second half of the year?
I think in the second half, I guarantee you, I'll try to keep it. Yeah, I'll just stick to one. Sorry, I'm trying not to steal people's answers. I'll stick to one and say that, I bet Scott Dixon really wants to have Portland back. With being in the lead at the time of his battery failure coming down the pit road, that really hurt. Instead of getting, 50 points or whatnot, maybe even if we just say a podium, 35 points to going down to, can't remember specifically what he got, but maybe like 10. That's a huge chunk. I know he lost by 63 points at the end, but, who knows how it would have worked if he came into Laguna Seca with an actual chance, maybe there's a little bit of extra motivation. So I think it definitely hurt Dixon's momentum.
I would say Dixon also wants Gateway back. It's pretty rough for him also. But I'm going to say that Rossi wants this whole past weekend back. He didn't come off the trailer very good and in a good position, and struggled all weekend. And unfortunately, it just kind of bit him in the end. So I would say that Laguna is what Rossi would want back.
Yeah, real quick, I'll get my easy answer out of the way. I don't think there's anything Simon Pagenaud would want back, with the exception of maybe Belle Isle Race 2. Outside of that, he didn't finish outside of the top 10 the last 8 or 9 races of the year. So there's only so much you can do there. Whereas Rossi, I'm going to go with Gateway. I know I talked about this after Gateway, but that strategy call just cost him what was probably a 6th or 7th place finish, and it just, I don't want to say set him up for failure, but did not help his his standing going into Laguna. So with that, that wraps up our championship discussion for now. Colton Herta won 2 races this year. He obviously had 3 poles and a lot of really great performances overall. But looking forward to next year, and I won't spoil the news that we'll talk about later on that everybody already knows about Colton Herta. But does anybody think he will win 2 or more races next year after his pretty stellar rookie season?
I think it's going to be a little difficult, honestly. I know a lot of guys have their sophomore slump, and is going to be going to a new team. So that's going to be a little bit difficult for him, I think. So I'm going to say it's going to be difficult. It's not impossible for sure, but I think it's going to be a kind of an uphill battle.
What is with us these last 2 weeks? I feel like we just keep stealing each other's answers. Because I was definitely I thought I was going to be the negative Nancy of the group and say no. Just hit the nail on the head. I think the sophomore slump, if I go back and do research, I should double check that. But I definitely think it's a real thing. And I can't really explain why it happens, but it seems like when standout rookies get into their second year, they kind of regress a little bit. So I'll stick with the no. I think maybe 1 next season.
That's fair. I'm going to take the push here and go with exactly 2 wins again next year, just so I don't agree with you guys. And I'm going to throw in looking at this rookie class, obviously we don't know Marcus Ericsson's future currently, but it looks like Santino Ferrucci will be back with Dale Coyne, and it looks like Felix Rosenqvist will be back with Chip Ganassi. Do we see either of those gentlemen break into the win column in 2020?
Rosenqvist, I think definitely, for sure, especially at a road course. The dude was really fast everywhere. I think outside of maybe Detroit, he was just pretty solid. Maybe look to maybe even St. Pete, because he was really solid there. Ferrucci, maybe on an oval. It'll be tough to see. He came close a couple times this year, so I guess maybe watch Gateway. But if I had to pick one of the 2, I'd say Rosenqvist.
I would probably agree with you, but I don't know. Watching Ferrucci on those ovals, I think he's got a pretty dang good chance to come out swinging. Hopefully they don't have sophomore slumps, but we'll see. I definitely think that Ferrucci has a chance, though.
Yeah, I think I lean towards Matt's answer here, and if Ferrucci wins, it's probably going to be on an oval, but you never know. The kid learned a lot throughout the season. Rosenqvist, especially the second half of the year, he was mega impressive. So it's, obviously nothing's a sure bet, but there's certainly a pretty good chance of that. So let's dive into a little bit deeper here, talking about Laguna. Everybody thought it would be a pretty bland race. People in the media, fans, etc. There was a lot of passing, lots of good action. I know Colton Herta led 87 out of 90 laps, or 83 out of 90 laps, give or take. But the battles throughout the field were pretty good the entire time. So are we going to agree here that the race as a finale was definitely better than Sonoma as a finale?
100%. I think it would be hard to argue otherwise.
Yep, for sure. I thought everything about the weekend was really well done, and the amount of passing we saw was great, and people like Robin Miller, who were very much opposed to the idea of going to Laguna Seca. He even came out and said, hey, I was wrong, which was really nice to see. So, yeah, I was definitely one of the ones who was very shocked.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was shocked. I didn't know what to expect going into the weekend, to be honest, but I was really happy with how the racing product turned out. I know we'll touch on later our thoughts about the track itself and the venue and whatnot, but man, there was a lot going on the entire race. You couldn't look away without something happening at one point. So one question for you guys. Obviously, this debate is going to go on for at least a while. Should IndyCar keep Laguna Seca as its season finale after 2020? Obviously, we know next year it's in the schedule. It's written in stone. But moving forward, would you like to keep it there or potentially still look at something else?
Yeah, I know we discussed it last week, primarily with Gateway potentially doing the finale. But after what I saw this weekend, I have no arguments for removing it. I think keeping it where it is great. I thought the whole weekend was fun. The race itself was really good. I'm assuming the teams and IndyCar itself got a lot of good opportunities to wine and dine some sponsors and whatnot. So as long as the teams were happy with that aspect of it, I think the fans at home and anybody else who was primarily concerned with the racing, I thought they were going to be impressed based on what we saw. So fingers crossed that it keeps coming back as a finale because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, the racing was great. The area was fantastic. Lots of things to see and do. So that's always good for the teams and sponsors and things like that. So I was very pleased with it.
Yeah, I have nothing bad to say. The one thing I'll add to what Jess said in terms of impressiveness is the sponsors that had hospitality areas. I mean, the United Rental ones was hospitality was like a mini hotel. It was massive. Obviously the Aero hospitality was impressive as always, and Carlin had their hospitality area available. I mean, anybody and everybody that had a sponsor had some sort of hospitality going on. So that to me right there shows that the sponsors were really excited to be at such a cool and unique venue. So I am all for keeping it there because the racing was good and the sponsors were excited. I think that's a pretty good combination in today's IndyCar. So moving on, your driver of the day.
I'll jump in here. I'm going to go with Felix Rosenqvist. He started in 14th, and frankly, I think everybody knew he was driving angry. So he definitely made it pay off for him and got up to 5th, and I thought it was just a brilliant drive by him.
That's who I was going to go with. My non-Felix Rosenqvist answer will just default to Colton Herta, just based on his 83 laps led. Obviously, that's super impressive. And there's just something about these Hertas at Laguna Seca I just don't understand. It's just a genetic thing or whatnot. I mean, when we had Herta on for our interview before the season even started, he was bragging about how he was faster than his dad there. And I can't remember what type of car it was, but he was faster than his dad. So that was the only reason I picked him in Fantasy IndyCar, because I remember that story and it paid off. So Colton did a heck of a job, and he was my driver of the day if I couldn't pick Felix.
I'm going to go with, thank you guys for not stealing my pick for a change. I'm going to go with Sebastian Bourdais. Really had a miserable Friday and Saturday with his neck injury. Wasn't feeling great. Tristan Vautier was there as a backup just in case. Had a terrible qualifying effort, started 19th, and just steadily worked his way up past cars all race to finish 7th. And probably his most impressive pass was on championship winner Josef Newgarden with about 7 or 8 laps to go. It didn't look like Newgarden was giving that up easy. Now, obviously, he didn't want to sustain any sort of damage, but to go from 19th to 7th with probably a sore neck and just kind of rough weekend overall is good for him. So on that note, our disappointments of the day.
Yeah, my disappointment of the day is going to be Santino Ferrucci. I know it was pretty much his only mistake he made all year as far as contact and, being in an accident with other cars. But it was kind of a pretty bad mistake to make into turn 2. So it was a bummer that he ruined Sato's race. I know Takuma Sato's had his fair share of incidents in taking out other drivers this year, but that doesn't really make it even or anything like that. So it's just a bummer to see for Sato's side of it. And, Ferrucci only had his one mistake this year, so we can chalk it up to a rookie mistake. And, he got to use one before he graduated into sophomore status. So it was disappointing to see, but all in all, like I said earlier, a good season for Ferrucci.
I'm going to go with Conor Daly. I really expected more out of him. I really don't have like a specific moment in the race that made me think that it was super awful or anything like that, but I just expected him to kind of come out the gate swinging, especially going into silly season. So I think he's got to be my disappointment.
I don't know. I'm going to go with Ed Jones, kind of just a blah weekend in general on a, rough ending of the season and didn't show much in the race. I don't really know what happened when he had that suspension issue. Wasn't really able to see it at the track. I don't know if Matt has any insight, if they showed anything else on TV. He's shaking his head no. So, yeah, I know there's a couple guys that kind of went off track at that point. But
he was involved with the Ferrucci Sato incident.
Nonetheless,
somehow.
It just wasn't really, the first 50 laps that he did run were, he was a lap down, so he was already pretty much out of contention at that point anyway. And just definitely a disappointing day. So obviously we have to recap our predictions and see who's going to win this final race of the season. I had Hinchcliffe good and Zach Veach bad. Hinchcliffe finished 9th. Was respectable, especially when he was dealing with a apparent neck injury during the race.
Nope.
Zach Veach bad is pretty accurate. Let's see here. Matt had willpower good. Yep, he nailed that one. Hinch bad. He was wrong on that one. Jess had Rossi good.
Come on. He started 5th and finished 9th. That's a regression.
Kimball bad. That's pretty accurate. I don't know. This one is a tough one to score, so I'm going to give the win to Matt. Listen, it might be the sleep deprivation from traveling home yesterday, but
what? Are you feeling okay?
Yeah. No, I don't. Let's just move on to the next topic here.
Fantasy Indycar, then? Are you going to revoke my win if I bring it up? Well, hang on a second. If everybody remembers way back when, we may or may not, but definitely did make a bet on the show that whoever finished last in the Fantasy IndyCar League run by Jake Neely would have to buy a Marco shirt. Jess, do you want to inform the viewers of us three who finished last?
Well, it wasn't me.
Was it me?
Nope, don't think it was you either.
Oh, well...
Host Mike, what does that mean?
Purchased on eBay today.
Wait, do you have to buy a Marco Andretti shirt now?
Very nice Venom racing shirt. It might be one size too small for me, but take the good with the bad and embrace the no bueno fantasy season that I accomplished. A very mediocre season. I was never in the elimination zone, and I was never in contention for a top 10. Yeah.
Can you hashtag low?
I don't like you guys anymore.
Posted on Twitter.
So before we got 2 topics or 3 topics to wrap up our Laguna discussion with. First, there were a few complaints by some of the drivers that maybe the Firestone tires had too much drop off. I guess that would be the alternate red tires. The difference between the 2 tires was far too drastic. Graham Rahal mentioned something like that on our interview with him over the weekend. That if you listen to, you would know. But I don't know. Do you guys agree? Disagree?
I thought they fell off maybe a little too much. I can say that the radio conversations that I did listen to during the race were quite colorful. Words that cannot be said on this show. When they were discussing, especially the black tires just not holding on the way that they expected them to compared to the red tires. Yeah, I think that they seem to fall off a little bit too much, honestly, especially with the blacks compared to the reds. It seemed like there was a lot of very colorful discussion on team radios about that. And I can say that I did go up to the corkscrew for a little bit, and the chunks that were flying off were actual chunks. It wasn't just small marbles. It was like huge chunks of tires that were flying off. So a little bit concerning. I definitely think it's something for them to look at. But it also made for a lot of interesting passing, I think. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there, I think.
I'm not going to disagree with Jess, especially since she was at the track and probably knows more firsthand of what it looked like being there. My only thing is kind of what you touched on in the end, is that whatever IndyCar and Firestone did this weekend worked. So as long as there isn't some massive repave of the track, or if the meteorologists think that September is going to be an average of 30 degrees this next year or anything like that, if it's all going to be probably about the same conditions and whatnot, I just think since what we saw really worked well, just to keep it, even if maybe there was a little bit of an extreme fall off.
Yeah, I didn't really mind. I know the drivers didn't like it, but it definitely made for at least 3 or 4 different pitch strategies there. So I'm okay with it, and I do agree. Definitely don't repave the track. I know both Will Power and Simon Pagenaud said so after the race, so I'm on board with them, and let's keep the track like it is. Last question here before we discuss a few other kind of recap things. What did you guys think, going back to qualifying, of Felix Rosenqvist's qualifying penalty? I know what Felix thought, but what do you guys think?
I mean, I'll be the downer again, and I'm just, he spun in front of Hinch, and it impeded Hinch's progress. To me, it doesn't really matter if Hinch is on a flying lap or not. And one of Felix's points was that, hey, nobody was out there on the reds. Like, that shouldn't matter either. There shouldn't be something in the rule book saying that if a driver is out on the track, not on the reds, and you spin and cause a yellow, that it's okay. Now, should they address maybe changing the rule book? Sure, maybe like losing your fastest time, say your fastest 2 times, that may be a little harsh, but technically, according to the rules, he broke the rules. So I get that he's frustrated, but I'm sticking with that. I think if he did something wrong, that they should just enforce the rule book in that situation.
I really wish I didn't have to agree with you, but I do. Rules are rules, and he clearly screwed it up, so he deserved what he got. It was a little harsh, of course, but I mean, that's kind of part of the game. That's a possibility, and unfortunately, it happened, and he had to pay the price.
Yeah, I think we can make this discussion pretty quick. I agree. It sucks. But listen, it is what it is. The rule's been there. It's not like a new rule or anything, but I'm glad to see he was able to recover and have a good race on Sunday.
And one more quick point, I guess, because he was frustrated and whatnot, but if you don't want to get penalized, then maybe don't spin. Is that a fair argument?
I mean, yeah, I guess. It's not the best argument I've ever heard.
Pretty good, yeah. Okay, so we are going to talk just a little bit about the venue that we got to see this weekend. Mike and I were out there, and we're going to talk about that. And then we also want to tell you a little bit about the party we hosted after the race on Sunday. Mike, what did you think? I mean, I thought it was beautiful.
It was, I mean, everything about the entire area and the track was awesome. How they pretty much just, built the track into what terrain there was. They didn't try to, overhaul terrain or anything like that. It is what it is. I was just, everywhere I went was just awesome. I really enjoyed the entire area. There looked like there was tons of stuff for fans to do. Obviously, there was plenty of places to grab some food and grab some drinks. And yeah, I mean, I was really happy with what I saw.
Yeah, extremely happy. I did not. Oh no, I did buy a pizza. I was like, I didn't buy food, but I did buy food at the track. Food was fairly well priced. I will say that the drinks were very good priced. I was kind of shocked, actually, especially for a venue. I had one beer, guys, so don't get me wrong. I wasn't like out of control or anything.
What was that, Mike? Are you booing her for having one beer? Isn't that like responsible or something?
Yeah, probably, but I just did.
Okay.
But I had to. It was for the purposes of this show. The one beer I had was $8. And if you've been to any sporting event, like at all recently, anywhere, you know that that's a good price. So I was very pleased with that. I also really enjoyed the fact that for fans and team members and pretty much anybody who was there, they also had these little golf cart shuttles that took you all over the place. And it would take you up to the corkscrew and also take you up, basically anywhere you wanted to go. So it was nice. I really enjoyed it. Mike, do you want to tell them a little bit about the party we hosted?
Yeah, so for those who were lame and didn't come out to Laguna Seca and to the party,
Yikes.
I know that was mean. Again, I'm sure you probably saw the invite on social media, which we had a great group of about, 20 or 25 fans there for the first couple hours, I guess, with celebrity producers from Rapid Response, Michael Myers and Roger. I don't know Roger's last name, but we're just gonna have some fun with this one, and he can tease me about it on Monday. And then and Roger's last name is Roger Hins. Thank you, Matt, for texting me that. Also, I just realized it's Michael Miles, not Michael Myers. Getting into the Halloween theme here a month or so early. So I hope he doesn't tease me when I talk to him next week. So anyway, they were our special guests. Gave out some posters, which was really cool. They were the big movie posters. What I thought was really cool was the different groups of fans that came in and all kind of like just hung out together and made friends, and it was really cool. And then night started to slow down until the champ himself, Mr. Newgarden, came in, and there was his group of people came to hang out, and our buddy Jay Fry was in the back having dinner. And who else showed up at that point? Jack Harvey was there for a minute.
The great Santino.
The great Santino was there. Toby Sowery, who we also interviewed this weekend, was there. Mistaken for Colton Herta by a woman in the bar, which is fantastic. You can ask me that story, and I will gladly share it, but it is definitely not for podcast consumption.
Oliver Askew.
God, who else? Askew. Aaron Telitz was there. I believe I saw Parker Thompson walk in from Indy Pro 2000, and somebody else who I forget. We were out until far too late. But it was a fantastic event, really cool. Everybody kind of mingled with the drivers as they came in, so it became just a big giant party. There were some crew guys there. Rahal strategist Ricardo, whose last name I'm blanking on, has been around IndyCar for quite some time now, was there with some guys. The entire Cape Motorsports team, I believe, was there, and one other Road to Indy team. Like all their guys were there. I can't remember what team it was, but nonetheless, really cool event. Their turnout was amazing. If you're going to Laguna next year, we'll have another one, probably at the same place, as long as they still like us. But it definitely was a lot of fun, and thank you to everybody who did come out, who happens to be listening to this. It was really, really cool. Just a lot of fun, and a good way to end the season. So with that, a quick couple of Patreon shout outs here. I'm going to go at random. Let's thank our buddy George for all his support. Let's thank David Lighting, even though the Eagles play the Packers tomorrow. I'm not really too confident about that. And let's see here, Mr. Stephen King. So 3 great gentlemen. So thank you very much. And we'll continue on with the episode.
All right, guys, I've got some to host tonight. And since we just finished up another season, I thought I would do it around champions. And we're going to do champions since 1996. There have been 15 different champions since 1996. So we're going to name them off one by one. And judging by this, Matt's feeling pretty confident about himself, so we will not let him go first. Mike gets to go first.
I'm actually going to challenge Matt here. If he can name all 15, he will win the entire IndyCar season, stump the host. He will get like a giant win.
All right. Are we talking IRL, Champ Car, Kart, IndyCar, all of them?
IndyCar since 96.
All right. Buzz Calkin, Scott Sharp, Jimmy Vasser, Alex Zanardi, Juan Montoya, Buddy Lazier. I need to go the other way now. Kanan, Weldon, Franchitti, Dixon, Newgarden, Pagano, Power, Hunter Ray.
Can we T for time you? Because you added all the kart people in, and I said IndyCar. So I lost track after like 3 of them.
Kart is IndyCar.
No,
are we not?
No, it's not.
It definitely is. I will debate that 100%.
It is not.
It's all the same. It is all right. So we're talking IRL, so that's Calkins, Sharp, Lazier, Franchitti, Dixon, Power, Ornish, Pagano, Newgarden, Hunter A, Kanan, Weldon, DeFerrin. No, he didn't win it. Who won in 2003? Oh, it was Dixon.
You're missing 97, 98, 99, 2000.
Those IRL years. I think I said Lazier.
Oh, yeah, you did say Lazier. I'm sorry.
You did, yeah.
Lyondike. Cheever.
Nope.
Greg Ray.
Yep. You got 2 more. 97 and 98.
Kenny Brack.
Yep.
Who was 97? Oh, what? Brack was 97, wasn't he?
No, he was 98.
Tony Stewart.
Yep.
Well done.
I knew I had. Well, I mean, to be fair, I just kind of watched all those races within like last 6 months.
Yeah, that's why as soon as this question was asked, I knew I didn't stand a chance at this one. So I wasn't even going to bother. Well done. With that being said, we will transition right into the next one.
Okay, so we're going into the off season, and we are going to be rebuilding some teams here. We're going to make a new position for every team in IndyCar. Every team has to have a new position now. What is that new position going to be? And why do you think the teams need this said new position person?
Wow. Judging by the look on Matt's face, he has no idea. Let's see here. I'm trying to think of like what they already have, and I'm drawing a blank.
You know, like no tire changer, no engineer. They already have all those things. No, just something totally off the wall.
I got one in a serious way. A specialist whose job is nothing but to learn every possible thing about the new aero screen, every possible advantage you can gain from that. That's his only job.
Lame. That's too serious for the Joker lap.
Agreed, but whatever.
I was thinking that they could all hire, not maybe hire, well, I don't know what the appropriate word is. They could get a dog for the team, and that dog would just be like, you know, best friend of the team, always there for a lick on the face when they're trying to work on the car. If you're bored, you can go play fetch with the dog, just give it a little bit of love, relieve some stress. There's tons of studies saying that dogs relieve stress in the appropriate setting. So I think every team needs a dog, professional dog that is just lovable.
I was going with something similar to that in a cat wrangler, a team cat wrangler, because each team now needs to have their own cat teammate. I don't know what else you would call it other than a cat teammate.
I guess it's not really a mascot because it's a lot. It's real.
Yeah. I don't know, but because they, it's supposed to be good for your blood pressure and things to have cats around. So we're going to have every team has their own cat and their own cat wrangler. So
if you had to pick between lovable dog or windscreen guy, who would you pick for your team?
Yeah, dog. Sorry. Like no question in my mind.
It's fine. I don't even know. It's like I expect.
Wait, what kind of breed? Wait, I think I know the answer, but what kind of breed would you get?
Me?
Yeah,
a pug, of course.
I knew that was coming. What about you, Mike?
I would go with whatever everybody on my team wanted.
Oh, that's very compassionate of you.
Team vote. Yeah. Got it.
Team vote.
Me and Sammy are looking at getting a wire-haired pointed griffin. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but
I'm gonna Google that one.
Yeah, it's hypoallergenic because she's allergic. So we're looking at getting one of those, and Sammy's parents actually have one, and we love her. She's so adorable. So that's what I would get in my team. So, hey, we're all dog people, if you guys didn't know out there. That's the Joker lap done. We'll move on. Before we get to the pitfalls here, we're transitioning into the off season, which means silly season, which hasn't quite concluded, is still kicking out some good rumors and interesting stories out there. So we'll kind of do a quick recap of some stuff that may happen here in the near future / maybe some predictions on our part here. Mike kind of touched on it earlier in the episode that kind of the most known news ever that was finally released is that Colton Herta is now officially an Andretti Autosport driver with Harding Steinbrenner's support. So he'll technically be in the 5th Andretti Autosport car full-time next season, officially joining the stable. What are you guys, I mean, obviously I'm assuming you guys aren't surprised by that, but do you think there's any sort of dynamic change from what they had this year to next year now that he's officially part of the stable?
Probably not. Maybe a little bit, but considering he's going over there with the Harding Steinbrenner clan, and it's just probably a different place to work, and maybe some extra resources now that there's no technical alliance or anything like that. It's just a full on extra car on the team with some extra money. So probably not too much of a change. But can I just say, the long team name is going to be even longer when you add Marco's team name car to that. So I'm very interested to see how the naming will work out on that one.
I think there might be a little bit of difference, I guess you can say. I mean, that, you know, he's likely going to have some different crew guys, different people surrounding him, and very probably a different team attitude compared to what he has been dealing with. So I think there could be a few bumps. I think they'll be few and far between, but I think there could be in the transition.
Yeah, well said to both of you. I got nothing to add to that. Next one we heard was per Dave First. Tony Kanaan has a handshake deal, quote unquote, to return to Foyt for 2020. How much do you guys read into that quote unquote handshake deal? Do we think it's actually going to transpire into something?
Unless it's a signature on a piece of paper or a computer, there is always a chance for something to wildly change. So I'm not saying it won't happen, but handshake deals are nothing official. So I'm not really reading any into it at the current state.
I think that Foyt will be hard-pressed to find a driver that has better experience. And I think TK might be hard-pressed to find a different full-time ride. So I could see it happening for sure. But yeah, like you said, you know, and until it's actually on paper, there's room for change there.
And do you give Matthias Lace chances to return to Foyt at anything other than 0%?
Maybe 5%.
No, I don't. I'm going to stick with 0.
All right. Well, there's another silly season contender to keep an eye on. And kind of segue into that, per Marshall Pruitt of Racer, Carlin is intending on running 2 cars next season. The expectation is that Max Chilton will be sticking to the road courses in one of the cars, potentially looking at 3 cars for Indianapolis as well. As far as, you know, guys like Matthias Laced, and there's a couple other names thrown around, was that surprising to you guys at all that they're sticking with the 2 cars based on maybe their financial struggles this year and or lack of sponsorship for one of the cars? Is, you know, that anything other than good news to see this news coming out from Marshall Pruitt?
It's definitely not bad news considering kind of how the year went for them. Kind of a roller coaster year, more towards the bad side of things. But I expect they'll run 2 cars. You know, they'll find somebody with funding. Maybe it's a good spot for somebody like Marcus Ericsson. I hope I didn't spoil anybody's hot take there, but yeah, I'll say Marcus Ericsson is in the other car next year.
I definitely don't think I'm surprised by it. I mean, they have quite a while to put something together here in the off season now. And yeah, I could see somebody bringing some money. Also, I don't know. I mean, Marcus would be good, but I think that there's some other guys who have funding also that may end up slotting in there. You know, maybe Conor Daly. We'll see. Who knows? It could be interesting. They probably are going to be the most interesting story at this point on the off season, I think.
I think I just let the internet warriors get to me on that one because after Indianapolis, you know, the whole guaranteed entries debate happened, and then Carlin missed the field with 2 of their 3 cars, and everybody's like, well, there's Carlin gone. So it was a relief to me, to be honest, to see the news that came out from Pruitt. So that was really refreshing. You know, we've touched on Matthias Lace. You guys just mentioned Ericsson and Daly. As between Conor Daly, Marcus Ericsson, and Charlie Kimbo, who have all stated that they intend to hopefully be full-time next year. Of those 3, do you see maybe one of those 3 having the best chances at being full-time next year?
Man, this is a really tough one if you're going to have to pick between the three, because I don't know. Novo Nordisk dropped a lot of funding this year to go from a full season to just 5 races. I think Marcus might have the best odds with Conor, from what I have heard through the paddock, is, he's got a better chance than maybe he has in years past, but I think Marcus is the early betting favorite on this one between those three.
Yeah, I definitely have to say Charlie is probably the least favorite, only because he didn't run as much as the other two guys, and also with what we perceive as less funding, it would be a little more difficult for them to lean his direction, I think.
Yeah, solid answers. A perfect role. Hopefully we see all 3 full-time next season. That would be really cool. Kind of a weird one that came out. This was first report. Well, multiple people are still reporting that James Hinchcliffe will be back with Arrow, McLaren, Schmidt-Peterson next season. But one thing that really came out this weekend that was really surprising was Jenna Fryer, I believe, was the first one to report that Arrow Electronics was unhappy with Hinch appearing in ESPN The Body issue. And there wasn't too much detail into that, just that there was maybe some friction there between Hinch and Arrow. That's kind of a weird, silly season thing to kind of spring up right before the finale. So I know there's a lot of talk about Hinch. Honda, is he potentially going to a Honda team? Even Robin Miller mentioned it today that if Honda can place him somewhere, that they were still looking at that option and that Hinch isn't necessarily coming back. Do we have a % chance of us seeing Hinch in a McLaren car next season at this point in the silly season?
I'm going to go with 85%. I think he's going to be there. I don't foresee them coming up with anything else. I think he's going to be in the McLaren car, and I personally think that's the best place for him.
I'm going to go with 75%. Just to be a little different in my answer, but I know Arrow is unhappy. Jenna Fryer reported, and I've heard it mentioned by a few other people, so there's some definite legs to that. But unhappy enough to just say, "Hey, we don't want you racing next year." Probably not. I don't think so. I know he didn't have a great year, but he is incredibly marketable, and when you're bringing when McLaren is joining forces, any sort of marketing to get their name out there is not a bad thing, especially with maybe he has a rebound year next year. So I'd say 75% chance, most likely.
I'm going to stick to my guns on this one and say 10%. I know I've been beating that drum for quite some time, and there are a minor few people out there like a Robin Miller who are kind of thinking the same thing that I was thinking, and I'd probably be wrong, but I'm just going to stick with my guns and say that there's a 10% chance he's at McLaren next year. I just think there's a lot of factors that that should lead him to a Honda team at some point, especially a third Rahal car. But speaking of Rahal car, there's still persistent rumors. I believe it was maybe said a couple weeks ago that Rahal was 50-50 on adding a third car to his team full-time. A lot of rumblings coming out of the Chip Ganassi camp that they'll be expanding to a third car as well. On the back of that, Oliver Askew did wrap up the 2019 Indy Lights championship, meaning he's got that scholarship to run at a minimum 3 races, but if he wants to contribute that to a full-time effort as well, that's definitely something he can bring to the table. As far as Askew, he's going to be an Indycar somewhere for at least a handful of races. But do we possibly see Askew? I know he's been linked to that Ganassi car, especially after his test, and Mike Hall loved him. Do we see these 3-car entries happening for both those teams? Do we see Askew in Ganassi or Rahal or somewhere else?
Sure.
What do you guys think?
I think the Ganassi fit seems like when Chip and Mike Hall fall in love with somebody, they find a way to make it happen. Like Felix Rosenqvist. So I know somebody mentioned this to me at the party on Sunday. with the Ford GT program being shut down, they've got extra crew guys and some extra resources now, so maybe they can divert that to ask you to run X number of races if not a full season. So that I see very likely. The Rahal Letterman third car, I don't know. I think that's still, I'm going to say 50-50.
I'm going to give the Rahal Letterman car I'm going to go like a 30% chance that it's going to happen. I feel like it's kind of falling away where the Ganassi chance is getting some legs and running. And like you said, I do see Oliver Askew being a good fit there. I think that would be the, I guess, most obvious pairing there.
Yeah, so we just touched on a bunch of them. I think, fortunately, we're set up for a couple good weeks of news here. Sometimes in years past, the silly season's kind of wrapped up before the season finale, but between what we just discussed, Meyer Shank Racing, who are they going to partner with? Spencer Piggott will be back at Ed Carpenter. What's going to happen with Arena's VK coming out of Indy Lights? Is Ed Carpenter going to stick to ovals, or is he going to go down to Indianapolis only? There's a bunch of others. Will Max Chilton really stick to road courses only, or if they add the aero screen, will he come back full time? We got a ton of stuff we could be looking out for here in the near future, and we'll definitely keep you guys in the loop as far as what we find out. I
think
in the
it's quiet right now, but
the next couple weeks.
Going forward, I think we're probably in for a couple surprises and plenty to talk about. There weren't too many Jess Who moments this season. We didn't have any Augustin Canapino appearances like I predicted 6 times last off season. So I'm sure we'll have plenty of those to chat about for the next couple of months here. But before we get to everybody's favorite Pitfall jingle, Pitfall's again sponsored by our friends at Craft 1861, the all-natural CBD products for your health and wellness. As you probably saw, they were on RC Enerson's car in the COTA test, and I think had a small spot on, who was the Carlin car that ran? Charlie Kimball's car during the Indy 500. And because Matt and Jess gave me grief, the promo code has been changed to PLP40. We got an extra discount for you guys for the season ending, up to 40% off now. So PLP40, check it out, craft1861.com. And let's dive into this.
And now it's time for Pit Lane Parlay's Pitfalls of the Week.
All right, I'm going to go first this week because I want to. NASCAR is thinking about scrapping pit stops for the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series. I'm only pitfalling it because, NASCAR, again, is just, trying crazy things to make the races more interesting. I saw today that you would be able to change tires if you had tire damage or during a pit stop or during, a stage break, but you would still retain your position. That part just blows my mind. Right. I can see the look on Matt and Jess's faces right now. I know you guys can't, but it's probably like your face right now, wherever you are in your day listening to this. I get it from a money perspective. That's probably why the road to Indy doesn't have pit stops, even though I think Indy Lights should have pit stops, as guys, need some practice in that kind of situation for their IndyCar season, as we see sometimes rookies struggle with the whole pit stop sequence. But I mean, from a fan and racing perspective, everything they say with this whole you retain your position stuff, we need an "oh come on" button right now. I'll work on that one. I don't know. I don't really even know what to say. you can defend it from a monetary perspective. Yeah, they'll save probably upwards of $100,000 a year in tire and fuel costs, I guess. But man, I don't know. It seems like it's going to make the races pretty dull. I don't know if you guys you feel free to disagree, but
Yeah, I mean, I wish people could have seen all three of our faces. And Mike looked like he was pained while he's doing this. It was rough. And as far as me and Jess's faces, I hope nobody's face out there looked like mine when I was doing it, because that's an insult to you guys. But yeah, we don't want that. But it's just such a reach. I just don't get it. I think, again, they're trying to fix a problem by doing something other than addressing the exact problem, which is, again, in my opinion, the car itself. So I don't get it, and it just sounds kind of stupid all around.
NASCAR being NASCAR. That's pretty much all I've got to say.
Yeah, that's pretty well and true good. Do you want me to go next, Jess?
Sure.
All right. Back-to-back weeks. Going with Gunther Steiner again. What did he do this week, you might ask? Oh, God, this guy, he just annoys me. What did he do? Well, things have been struggling. Obviously, their car sucks. Obviously, they want to build their car without tires next year. So the obvious thing to do is to keep both of our drivers for next year. I just don't get it. I really don't. I can kind of understand Kevin Magnussen. He's pretty fast. He's almost aggressive to a fault sometimes, but he's really out there putting down some good laps every now and then. And I think his racecraft, if he's keeps a level head, is pretty good. I don't, for the life of me, understand how Romain Grosjean keeps getting these rides. The guy is making mistakes left and right, crashes under yellow at Baku last year, kind of keeps doing some really crazy maneuvers and getting into all sorts of incidents. And I just don't understand why you see, the merit in bringing him back, especially when a guy like Nico Hulkenberg's a free agent. I really don't understand it. So it's a little baffling to me that they're continuing down this path. Steiner said today something about, we kept them both because we want to control certain variables and figure out the car. And to me, it's just like, what are you doing? Like, I think Romain Grosjean is a variable that is not helping your team. So maybe we should try changing it. So I am kind of looking forward to the day. I don't wish ill upon him, but I'm kind of looking for a day where, maybe he gets, the pink slip and gets fired, because I really do think that
let me ask you this, Matt.
Potential one day.
With the team that wants to build their 2020 car, not worrying about the tires, which are incredibly important in F1 with everything going on, are you really surprised they made a decision like this?
That's a good answer, or a good question, because my answer would be no, not really. I guess I just spent 2 minutes ranting about it in Pitfall, and I guess I really shouldn't be surprised. But there's certain things that just happen that just make you, put your head or slam your head on your desk and go, "What are you doing?" So that was definitely a head desk moment for me.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that one. They almost need to get my dumpster fire monkey flag at this point.
I think it's Charlotte.
Sure, we'll go with Charlotte. So we are gonna get one printed up and we'll send it over there. So my pitfall this week is something that was already touched on a tiny bit. I'm just gonna elaborate a little. Arrow being upset with Hinchcliffe for the ESPN body issue, frankly, I think is a little bit ridiculous on their part. Obviously, that issue is very well done. They've been doing it for years at this point. There's nothing that you can see that I think was in poor taste by any stretch of the imagination. He wanted to tell his story and show people his scars. And frankly, I think they did a really good job with it. I don't in my opinion, if you're going to show your own body, you shouldn't have to get a sponsor's permission. And who knows, he could have signed up to do this before Arrow bought into the team or whatnot. I don't know how the timing all worked or whatever, but I just think it's a little bit ridiculous on their part to be as upset as they are with him for showing his own body.
It's a tough one.
I think that's a very personal choice.
I think I agree with you. This might be the first pitfall where I really don't know if I agree, but I'm going to say I agree because I don't know, contract stipulations or anything like that. It still should be his choice no matter what, but I'm interested to see how this will, unfold, I guess, throughout the off season.
Anytime it's a 50-50 thing like this, I'll just side with Jess.
I can't fault you on that one. She did pick the location for the party, and obviously that turned out pretty well.
Mike. So, that's a good logic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it was also my idea to have the party to begin with.
Yeah. And she beat you in Fantasy IndyCar.
Yeah. Okay, fair point. I got nothing.
No, that's why I should trust her opinion.
I have absolutely no way. I got nothing. So with that being said, I'm going to make things more positive here. Thank you to everybody for, listening all season. Obviously, we're not going anywhere in the off season. We'll have some fun stuff, probably another trivia night, probably a fan night or two. I will, again, come up with a ridiculous scoring system for trivia night to make sure Matt loses. Well, maybe I should make Jess lose after tonight. I guess that will be determined by how nice they are to me in the next.
That's disappointing.
I do take bribes. And again, we released a ton of content after Laguna Seca. I think there's every day this week there's been some interviews that have come out. So hope you enjoyed them, and I'm sure we'll be doing plenty more this off season as well. So thank you guys for staying with us all year. And with that, Jess, feel free to sign us off.
And guys, keep your lug nuts tight.